Past couple days I keep thinking about when we met. We're so sweet. Curious.
I'm so curious.
No. You're different.
I'm the exact same person that you reeled in with that jumpsuit.
I don't think that's true. But I'm not the same either.
Do you believe in Santa Claus?
I'll feel less extra big.
I need to know what's on your mind. These coffee cups are getting cold. Mind the people passing by. They don't know I'll be leaving soon. I'll fly away tomorrow to far away. I'll admit a cliche, things will be the same without you. I'll be looking up my window, seeing out a late sky. Should be kind enough to remember that I'll be hearing my own footsteps under a late sky. Should be kind enough to remember me. I'll let you know what's on my mind. I wish that made you portable. Then I carry you around and round. I bet you look good on me. Fly away tomorrow, it's been fun. I repeat the cliche, things will be the same without you. I'll be looking up my window, seeing out a late sky. Should be kind enough to remember that I'll be hearing my own footsteps under a late sky. Should be kind enough to remember. I've been meaning to call you soon. We're in different times. You might not be home now. Would you take a message? I try to stay away and fight your presence in my hand. And I'll be looking out my window, seeing out a late sky. would you be kind enough to remember? And I'll be hearing my own footsteps under Adelaide sky. Would you be kind enough to remember? And I'll be looking out my window, seeing Adelaide sky. Would you be kind enough to remember? And I'll be hearing my own footsteps under Adelaide sky. Would you be kind enough to remember me? Waiting in line to get to where you are. Hope floats up high along the way. I forget Jakarta, all the friendly faces in disguise. This time closing down this fairy tale that I put all my heart to get to where you are. And maybe it's time to move away. I forget Jakarta, all the empty promises will fall. This time I'm gone to where this journey ends, but if you'll stay, I will stay. Even though this town's not what it used to be, and pieces of your life you try to recognize all went down. I travel the world to get to where you are. Strangers are mad along the way. You forget Jakarta, leaving all the lunacy behind. This time you give me back my sanity, yet I'm still on my way to get to where you are. Try to let go the things I knew. We'll forget Jakarta. I promise that we'll never look behind. Tonight we're gone to where this journey ends, but if you'll stay, then I will stay. Even though this town's not what it used to be, and pieces of your life you try to recognize all went down. try to lose and follow you behind like ghosts do. And all the lies you try to keep and far behind catch you even more. If you stay, then I will stay. Even though this town's not what it used to be, and pieces of your life you try to recognize all went down the line. You should stay. I will stay, even though this town's not what it used to be, and pieces of your life you try to recognize, they all went stay. I will stay, even though this town's not what it used to be, and pieces of your life you try to recognize all went down. I forget Jakarta. Whoa. Sunday night after a rainy day, she got a ton of paper. I wrote the song for you, my love. Nights are the hardest, but I'll be okay. We are meant to be, we'll find a way. But now, let it be. 'Cause you know what they say, if you love somebody, you gotta set them free. I love you, but I'm letting go. 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 It's time for real. Little did I know it feels easy, but why was it so hard? It was like never enough. I gave you all, still you want more. Can't you say, well, can't you say that you want someone that I'm not?
Good morning, Doc Lily.
But I can't, so I am letting you go now.
Prof. Jonah?
How are you?
Hi, Doc. I'm okay.
You
Oh,
open your cam?
yes, I'm just setting up.
Okay.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I hear you
Okay.
clearly. We are waiting another
Good
participant.
morning, Ibu.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you too?
I'm okay too. Thank you. You always support my activity.
Of course, I will always support you. By the way, the other one is August 20, right, Ibu?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I will be presenting the other one.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. And then you are presenting at the time 20?
What? 20?
Yes. 20 August is you are presenting your research
The other
result.
paper. Yes,
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 yes.
Ibu.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Because I'm already have more than 15 research about COVID from Indonesia.
Wow.
It's
That's
very
nice.
difficult, very difficult found in here. I'm already
Yes.
talking at several university.
Actually, the paper that I'm going to present today is still ongoing. We haven't finished. But maybe it could be an enlightenment and encouragement for others to do a research who could have a similar kind of theme.
Hmm. Yeah.
But for the other one, the one on August 20, there are results already. However, the discussions will follow through.
Okay. Thank you. And then maybe Singapore Bangsa make English camp using online.
Yes, they had communicated with us and Sir Rolly. They were talking about having the English camp, but I think Singapore Bangsa is still on the process of finalizing it. They
Yeah.
target to have it like October or September, something like that.
Okay.
And also, Ibu, I am talking with Sir Belly about the cultural presentation, the
Yes.
online cultural presentation, and he told me their group, their team is ongoing or having a meeting regarding it.
Yes. I
Would
hope.
it be okay if we join or if we include other Indonesian universities like Singapore Bangsa and Brawijaya for a presentation?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay.
fine. Because they are also interested. I
Uh,
asked them if they would like to join because we are organizing together with, and then they asked, is Dr. Lily joining also? Remember, Doc, in the webinar, the two Indonesian universities who were together with you in the presentation, they were asking if Dr. Lily, the embassy, from the embassy would be joining. And I told them, yes, it is Ibu Lily's idea to have the cultural presentation.
but I'm not so sure what kind of the activity at the time.
Yes, we will still have the finalization of activities like the presentation. Like they were suggesting like a recorded video of some cultural presentations, songs and dance numbers, showcasing different costumes and talents of the universities. But we will see from the proposal that will be drafted out.
Okay. I'm waiting because I'm just still preparing because NCCA and the FA it
Yes.
need at the same like that. But
Mm,
I think we not have activity at the same time because that is a different institution.
yes.
Maybe we are split for NCCA and then for the FA.
Okay. You just let me know what would be the requirements or what should we be doing so that we could comply with the requirements that they have.
Yeah, I hope Mr. Belly is already finished the discussion next week, and then we are preparing for the first September.
Yes.
Selamat pagi, Profesor Lucky.
Good morning. Morning, Ma'am Manette.
Semua pembicara sudah ada ya? Muhammad, Riri. Okay, we can start now. Because I have another meeting with my ambassador.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, we can start now. Maybe Ibu Riri will join and after we are opening. Mbak Manet, bisa kita buka? Bentar ya. Only 35 partisipan. I'm sorry.
How many?
35.
Oh. Hi. No. Yogyakarta is a lot of participant. Indonesia is a lot of participant. Why?
Maybe they will still sign in. Only waiting for a few minutes.
Like yesterday, they are attending, they are just around 400, but when the webinar just only 100.
Oh, lucu ya.
Oke, kita mulai aja Mbak Manet.
Selamat pagi semuanya. Good morning, everyone.
Yes,
Good
good
morning
morning.
to our panelists. Good morning to our participants in Indonesia and also in the Philippines. Today, our webinar with the theme, the presentation of research related to the COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia and in the Philippines. Before we start this webinar, may I ask everyone to please stand and pause for a while for the singing of the national anthem of Indonesia and Philippines, and to be followed by the doxology in Islam and Christian.
Lupa Doa sebelum belajar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi zidni ilman warzuqni fahma. Artinya, ya Allah, tambahkanlah aku ilmu dan berikanlah aku rizki akan kepahaman.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Thank you so much. You may take your seats. Now, to officially start this webinar, may I ask Dr. Lily Nur Laili as the Education and Culture Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia to give her opening remarks.
Terima kasih, Mbak Manet. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Maraming magandang umaga. Selamat pagi. Yang saya hormati, my Honorable Assistant Professor John Akar Labin from PUP, my Honorable Professor Dr. Luki Herawati from Poltekkes Jogja, my Honorable Dr. Muhammad Abdan Sadiki dari Universitas Lambung Mangkurat, and once more Ibu Riri from UNISA, Universitas Aisyah Yogyakarta. Thank you to presenting your research result about around COVID-19 pandemic, because I'm already making a lot of activity about teaching, learning strategies and everything, not only for the education, but especially for nursing and everything area. And from today, I'm making a webinar about research around COVID-19. And then that is combined or just compare between Philippines and Indonesia. And then the area, not only education, but everything area research of COVID-19. I hope this research result or this is webinar international is valuable for not only for Indonesia, but for Philippines too. And I hope you are enjoy with this activity today. And then I hope we make activity webinar is success today. Thank you. Terima kasih. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrohmanirrohim, saya buka acara webinar internasional ini. Bismillahirrohmanirrohim. Terima kasih. Maraming selamat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lily Nurlaili, for the opening remarks. And now our webinar is officially opened. And now to begin with, let's have our keynote speaker. For our keynote speaker, she was the curriculum maker and developer in the Ministry of Education and Culture for 30 years.
Suaranya, Mbak.
And, and now she is the Education and Culture Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia. Again, to Dr. Lily Nurlaili, you may start your presentation.
Terima kasih, Mbak Manet. Thank you. I just want to give briefly about what I make it, why I'm making this activity is very important for Indonesia and for Philippines. The importance of research to overcome the current COVID-19 pandemic situation. This is very quickly, the public was educated about the definition of the virus. Before this pandemic COVID, maybe just only a few know about the definition of virus. Viruses can only replicate in living cells because viruses do not have the cellular equipment to reproduce themselves. All forms of life can be infected by viruses, ranging from animal, plants, bacteria, and archaea. WHO says the way the coronavirus spread is through small droplets that came out of the nose or mouth when those infected with the virus sneezes or cough. Virus droplet can stick to various surfaces such as tables, door levers, leaf, ATM button, floors, so it is advisable to frequently clean surfaces that are susceptible to being the medium of the transmission. However, with the growing opinion about airborne spread, the use of masks for those who are doing activities outside the home is highly recommended. Therefore, it is necessary to have the latest research results. In a COVID-19 study in Singapore, it was found that 87% of patient wards and 60% of toilet, especially in toilet sink taps and door levers that had not been cleaned contain significant concentration of viral RNA. Recently, research results emerged from the United States that specifically in equatorial countries such as Indonesia and Philippines, ultraviolet B rays, which are good for health, come out at 7:30 until 9:30. Some of the alternative treatment for COVID-19 include herbal medicine. Indonesian people have known jamu or herbal consultation as a treatment and body care since 1,300 years ago. To be precise, around 772 in the days of ancient Mataram Kingdom. The term jamu appeared around the Middle Age, which was taken from the ancient Javanese language, namely jamu, jampi, and usodo. Jampi means treatment using medical ingredients and prayer, while usodo means health. Therefore, it's very important to carry out various studies related to COVID-19. Some example of research that have been conducted by several universities in Indonesia. Portable ventilator, the ideal model of national resilience through Rukun Neighbor and Rukun Warga in implementing large-scale social restriction in breaking the chains of COVID-19 spread. 100-day mathematical model scenario of coronavirus spread in Indonesia and legal studies. In order to disseminate research results related to COVID-19, the Educational and Cultural Attaché conducted this webinar. I hope the results of this seminar are useful for both countries, Indonesia and Philippines. Terima kasih, maraming salamat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lily Nurlaili, for the presentation. And now we will proceed to our next program, which is the presentation of our speaker. Before we start, we would like to remind and inform our participants If you have any questions or clarifications regarding the presentation of the speakers, you may type it in the
Pak
Q&A.
Manet, suaranya masih jauh.
Jauh. Tidak jelas.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hope my voice now is clear, loud and
No.
clear.
Masih kejauhan pakai ini. Pakai
Earphone.
earphone.
How about now, Ibu? Is it clear and loud?
Yes.
Okay. So we will, before we proceed to our next program, which is the presentation of the speakers, we would like to inform our participants that if you have any questions or clarifications regarding the presentation, you may type it in the Q&A. And then later, after all the presenter done with their presentation, we will address your questions to them. So now let's proceed to the first speaker. For our first speaker today, she was the director of the Health Polytechnic Yogyakarta, Indonesia for 2 periods from 2006 until 2014. As of now, she is the lecturer at the Health Polytechnic of the Ministry of Health Yogyakarta and some private universities. And now she is active in reviewing research both at regional and national level since 1996 and until now. During this year, in 2020, she has this intellectual property rights for the video recorder on how to use 3-dimensional flannel to increase knowledge of Mount eruption disaster mitigation in children, and also a booklet, guidebook for playing sanitation board game as a sanitation education tool for elementary school students. Without further ado, let us hear the presentation of Professor Dr. Lucky Herawati, SKM MSc. Ibu, you may start your presentation.
Yes. Thank you. You are a host, or I have to share?
Do you want us to help to share your presentation, Ibu?
Okay, I see.
Or do you want to share it by yourself?
Yes.
Kami akan bantu untuk share dari sini ya, Ibu.
Oke. Berarti saya matikan atau biar saja? Oke.
Sudah ini, Ibu.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Honorable Dr. Lily, the education and staff, the education and cultural attaché, the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia, Manila, Philippines. Thanks for your inviting me to deliver research results in your webinar. And honorable the other guest speakers, whether from Indonesia or Manila, and YouTube and Zoom participants, whether from Indonesia and Philippines. Good morning. Magadang umaga. Thanks for your coming online today. Before I speak my research, I will give a statement, 2 words. There are a lot of people in the world who have concern to control the COVID-19. And we are also part of them today. And now I will present my research about the dominant factors to control COVID-19 symptoms, a study in Yogyakarta. The authors are me and 3 friends, Mrs. Henny, Mrs. Fura, and Mr. Budi, and now I will present it in this webinar. Next. The background. Next. The COVID-19 virus started at Wuhan, Hubei, China on January 30, 2020. And on February 16, it attacked 25 countries in the world, including Indonesia. On March 2, 2020, the first and the second cases was found in Jakarta, Indonesia. On August 9, there are a lot of people, positive cases. It's about 125,396 positive cases, and 5,223 people died, and 80,952 people recovered. Recently, more than 1,000 cases are found every day. It was indicated that the transmission process is still going on in the community. Next. This is the trend case of COVID-19. Next. There's the two, yes, yeah. This is the trend of COVID-19 in Indonesia and in Yogyakarta. They are similar trend, always high. Always increase day to day. In left side is in Indonesia, and the right side is in Yogyakarta. Next. How about the national activities carried out? Campaign standard protocol strictly. For instance, wearing masks, hand washing, use water and soap, social distancing, and others. Effort to prevent COVID virus transmission. For instance, forbidden to go out, stay at home, work from home, forbidden to hold the activities that potentially gathering a lot of people, territorial restriction, and others. Rapid test injection, followed by PCR if it is necessary. And the government now injected more than 21,090 18 specimen, and more than 267 billion Indonesian. So the other people had not been detected by the rapid test injection. Maybe that's why the transmission process is still going on in the community. Next. About the impact of the COVID virus. More than 6 months, Indonesia and other countries has been pressed by COVID virus. The impact of it are decreasing of the national economic growth. Latest data show that Indonesia economic growth is minus. More than 75% employment based on contract has stopped working. And now the government faced the dilemma. On one hand, the government wants to improve the national economic growth by slowing down the territory restriction. Maybe it supports increasing the number of new COVID cases. And on the other hand, the government has to protect people from COVID-19. Next. And how the government policy choices to slow down the restricted territory and to prevent people from COVID-19. It refers to prevent people from COVID-19 and to decrease the new positive COVID. The result is same as finding the determinant factor to control COVID symptom. If people know about it, especially those having mild symptom, they tend to choose it first and then do the other standard health protocol. Next. And this is my title of my research. The determinant factors to control COVID symptom. It done at early outbreak on March up to April 2019. And location in Yogyakarta Special Territory in Indonesia. Yogyakarta is one of the 34 provinces in Indonesia that has no cases of COVID-19. Next. And we use the productive age group based on WHO, more than 19 years old. Next. Methods of my research. We use the cross-sectional survey design. We use 415 respondents counted by Slovene formula. We use productive age respondent more than 19 years old based on WHO standards. We have two groups variables. First, the dependent variables consist of age, COVID symptoms that was experienced by respondent in the last 15 days before filling the questionnaire. The independent variable consists of its effort that are assumed affecting of the COVID symptom. Online questionnaire, I mean Google form, was used to collect data. The data were analyzed by using binary logistic regression, preceded by selection test, namely chi-square for the categoric scale and t-test for the numerical scale. Next. And now I will explain the data analysis in detail. First, the preceded selection test. If the variable has number of p-value more than 0.025 is included in binary logistic regression and vice versa. And second, the binary logistic regression done in 6 stages. If the variable has number of p-value more than 0.01, it will not be a candidate of the dominant factors and vice versa. And now in detail, on the first stage, we exclude the variable that has the highest number of p-value in the first stage. And on the second stage, we exclude the highest number of p-value in this stage, etc. up to 6 stages. And finally, we got the variables that have the number of p-value less than 0.01. So the determinant variables are the variables that have p-value less than 0.01. Next. And now I will explain you about the dependent variables age COVID symptoms. First, fever, sneezing, coughing, runny nose, headache, sore throat, lethargy, and difficult to breathe. Next. And how about the age effort to be assumed affected to COVID symptoms? First, territory restriction, outdoor activities, psychiatry condition, wearing masks, hand washing, use water and soap, using hand sanitizer, home and environment disinfection, and increasing body immune. Next. And now the results of my research. Next. First, I will explain you the characteristic of the respondent. Most of them are male. It's about 69%, and the age of 30 years old in average. And most of them are senior high school. It's about 41.9%. And the occupation, most of them are student, 39.3%. And location, they came from 5 regencies in Yogyakarta Special Territory. Most of them came from Sleman Regency. It's about 46.3%. And the body temperature is 37 Celsius degree in average. Next. And now the result about the age-dependent variables. There are 69.9% of my respondents answer yes, belong to restrictive territory. And there is 76.9% of my respondents answer yes, according to Hermout activities. And how about the psychiatric condition? We divide it into 3 stages: mild, moderate, and severe. There are 86.5% on the mild, and 11.3% moderate, and 2.2% in the severe condition. And 98.6% of our respondents say choose yes, according to wearing mask, and hand washing using water and soap 9.97 times or 10 times per day in average. Using hand sanitizer 3.5 times per day in average, and home and environment disinfection 1.62 times every day in average. And how about the increasing body immune? We divide it into 3 conditions: good, enough, and not enough. Good. There is 74.2% in good condition, and 25.8% enough, and not enough, still 0%. Next. And now about the dependent variable. It's COVID symptoms. We measure 7 symptoms of the COVID-19, namely fever, sneezing, coughing, runny nose, headache, sore throat, lethargy, and difficulty to breathe. Each symptom is divided into 3 conditions: never, sometimes, and more than usual. We give a score in each condition. We give 3 score in never, sometimes 2, and more than usual 1 score. Everyone had total scores of the symptoms. And now we got the total score 16 up 24. And we divide it into 2 conditions: mild symptom and severe symptom. Mild symptom, we got the number 83.6%. And the severe symptom, we got 16.4%. And most of our respondents in the mild symptom. Next. Now I will explain about the mild symptom and severe symptom. Mild symptom in the range of score 20 up to 24. And the symptom, it's about in the range 16 up 20. 16 up 20. And I will explain about the chart. You can see the horizontal line. There are fever, sneezing, coughing, runny nose, headache, sore throat, lethargy, and difficulty to breathe. And the vertical line, we can see the score. The score. 1 if more than usual, 2 if sometimes, and 3 if never feel symptom. I will give an example. If someone feel fever, someone feel fever, sometimes feel fever, sometimes feel sneezing, sometimes feel coughing, and sometimes feel runny nose, The score is 20. So 20 is in the range of the mild symptom. And if someone feel more than 4 symptoms, she or he feel fever sometime, sneezing sometime, coughing sometime, running nose sometime, headache sometime, sore throat sometimes, he or she have scored 16. So 16 is in the range of the severe symptom. And we can change the score. If she or he feel more than usual, you can change with 1. And if you feel never, you can change with the 3 score. And finally, we got the total score, and we can choose mild or the severe symptom. Next. Yes, they are the output of the statistic regression. We can see that the 6 stages. As I explained before, that we have 6 stages. Stage 1, we have to exclude the level of anxiety because it has the number of p-value highest than the others. And on the stage 2, we have to exclude level of depression because it has the highest number of p-value. And the stage 3, we have to exclude wearing mask because it has the highest number of p-value. And at the 4th stage, we have to exclude the level of stress because it has the highest number of p-value. And at the 5th stage, we have to exclude the restriction territory. And finally, we can see the 6th stage. We can see the number of p-value. All of the number are less than 0.01. So we got 3 variables that are that are psychiatric condition, hand washing using water and soap, and body immune. They are the dominant factor of COVID symptom. Next. Regression line equation. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. Regression line equation. We can see the equation. We can see the equation. We have to fill the the slide before. Sorry, the slide before. Okay. We can see the we can see the p-value, so that we have 3 symptoms. 3 dominant factors. There are the psychiatric health condition, hand washing using water and soap, and body immune. They are the dominant factor of COVID symptom. Next. Yes. And now we saw the beta. We have to fill the number in the equation. And I will explain you the x1 and x2 are the psychiatry condition. X3 and X4, X3 as hand washing using water and soap, and X4 is increasing body immune. And the equation model is state fit and high accuracy and probability. Next. Yes. And now we can see the exponent B. Exponent B is the same with risk. We can see the psychiatry condition have 9.922 is the risk, and the hand washing we can see the 0.9, and body immune we can see the number of 0.5. What does it mean? It means that if someone with mild symptom and she or he has psychiatry health condition, she or he will have risk 5 up 10 times to get severe symptom. And how about the hand washing and body immune? Hand washing and body immune will support people with mild symptoms not to fall into the severe symptom. Next. About the conclusion. Conclusion, I will explain you about the findings, about the application, about the implication, and about the next research. The findings. First, the dominant factors are psychiatry health condition, hand washing using water and soap, and body immune. So, 3 factors are the dominant factors to control symptoms of COVID virus. And 2, the psychiatry health condition will push the mild symptom run to severe symptom. And the risk of moderate psychiatry health condition is 10 times, and the mild one is 5 times to push the mild symptom to the severe COVID symptom. And the hand washing using water and soap, body immune reduce the risk of the mild symptom run to severe symptom. And the equation model was state fit and high accuracy and high probability. Next. How are the application of the research? First, if people feel mild symptom of the COVID-19, please don't worry too much. Do activity as usual. Do hand washing using water and soap, and frequently, at least 10 times in average per day, and improve your body immune. Improve your body immune, and then do the other health protocol standards. Next. The implication of our research. First, health providers and volunteers are suggested to do more campaign about this result in order that people with mild symptoms not to fall into the severe symptom. And health providers and volunteers are suggested to give information frequently about COVID-19 on balance between negative impact and the chance to recover from COVID-19. Next. Opportunities to the next research. To find the compliance in wearing masks and how to wear it, appropriate or not, and what kind of mask they use. To find the information about the material or liquid that they use in disinfection and to find the information about the content in the hand sanitizer liquid that they use. Next. Okay. I have already delivered our research findings and hopefully they are beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Luki Herawati. Thank you so much for sharing your research presentation, Ibu. And now we will proceed to our next speaker. For our next speaker, we have here, she is the assistant professor and also the director for international affairs in the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. To Ms. Jonna Carla Cbien, you may start your presentation.
So, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Salamat pagi. Magandang umaga. Can you see my screen clearly?
Yes, po.
Okay. So, for my presentation today, it's about the lived experiences of Filipino COVID-19 survivors, focusing on the quality of life and coping. So, I am one of the researchers in this group. I'm from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, and we are faculty members from the Department of Psychology. Actually, this is an ongoing research as of the moment because take a look at the title. It's all about the lived experiences of the Filipino COVID-19 survivors. So just to give a background of the study, we all remember that in December 2019, there was an outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 infection, which occurred in Wuhan, Hubei province of China. And it spread not only to China, but extending all over the world. That's why on February 12, 2020, the World Health Organization officially named the disease caused by the novel coronavirus as Coronavirus Disease 2019, or the COVID-19. And because most of the patients infected with the COVID-19 had pneumonia and characteristics, CT imaging patterns, radiologic examinations have become vital in early diagnosis and assessment of disease scores. And to date, CT findings have been recommended as major evidence for clinical diagnosis of COVID-19 in Hubei, China. Through this, the researchers gained an interest in conducting the study. And this study is an in-depth exploration of the lived experiences of the Filipino COVID-19 survivors, which will be made through the reduction of dimensionality of the survivors' stories and experiences. And this will be done to reveal different patterns of emotions and obtain an insider's perspective toward understanding the phenomenology of COVID-19 survivors. So who would have thought that our world, our lifestyle for today would be changing drastically because of the pandemic? And who might be thinking that not only China, but the entire world will be greatly affected by COVID. It has affected not only the health sector, the education, the socio-economic factors, and many other things had been affected because of this pandemic. And through that, we proceed on with the next. So here are the co-authors. We have Charlon Agos, Adrian Ginto, Ariana Chor, and Felicitas Trinidad. For the background, the related literature, we begin with the COVID-19, which is known to be contagious. It has an easier transmission, and it is a deadly virus once a person is infected, and which is suffering the severe form of the disease. And then the world has declared, countries in the world have declared a state of emergency because of the fast transmission of this. It's a pandemic because of the transmission, the quality of its transmission, the speed of its transmission. And because of that, government have imposed different policies on quarantine, encouraging people to stay at home. That is why even the schools nowadays are utilizing the online mode or the online method of teaching because the students as well as teachers have restrictions when it comes to going to school. And also, part of the COVID is the increase in the number of the cases of the COVID. For the COVID-19 patients, we all know that when a person is infected, aside from the physical symptoms that they could be experiencing, such as cough, colds, difficulty of breathing, as well as other problems that they could feel in their body, it has an impact on the psychological aspect of the person. Like, for example, the COVID-19 patients would be suffering from heightened anxiety. Of course, when you have some difficulty in breathing, when you have some discomforts, you might be thinking, what's going to happen to you next? Am I going to be cured? Am I going to survive this case? Of course, that would be accompanied by high levels of stress and also high levels of anxiety. Even people who are not suffering from COVID experience stress and experience anxiety. How much more to those who are suffering or who had been infected by the virus? In connection with that, the fear of death. Of course, when you have these symptoms and then you were intubated, you were placed in the intensive care unit, your anticipation on what's going to happen next will take place. And the more you feel that your case is becoming severe, the more you might be feeling that death might be there, just waiting for you. Of course, there is a feeling in huge risk because people are getting infected. Professor Dr. Lucky had mentioned earlier about the number of cases. Before, it was only 1,000 here in the Philippines, but this time it could reach up to 3,000, 4,000 per day. Having the people who's becoming infected with this infection, and so who's not going to feel afraid or who will not feel worried about that. You not know that whatever, for example, you're going out, you're seeing people, you're meeting people, or you're just going to buy something outside, first you will be feeling a lot of terror in anticipation for, you might think I might be infected. And of course, COVID-19 patients experience an emotional toll of isolation. When you are at home, when you're quarantined, when you do your self-isolation to prevent the further transmission to your loved ones, especially the people whom you're staying at home, of course, you might feel you want to be with them, you want to mingle with them. However, it wouldn't be possible at that case. And also for people in the hospitals who are confined, there is a high level of isolation that they might be experiencing at the same time. And so, the COVID-19 patients would be needing a support, not just support with whatever things that they would be needing physically, but psychologically, emotionally, it's important that they will be provided with this. And most importantly, the need for the financial resources, because we all know since the government couldn't fully fund the expenses for these COVID-19 patients, there is a certain amount of money that they have to shed out. And I think that's a big amount of money that they have to in order to survive. And that's another problem that these COVID-19 patients would be having as an add-on to the level of the stress that they are experiencing as well as their anxiety. And so with that, after going through with the different stages as they survive, the survivors of the COVID-19 could have different effects or could have a different perspective on how they have went through when they are dealing with or they are battling with the COVID-19. Others might feel that they are traumatized. Others might still feel that they are having an anxiety. Others could also feel depression. There could be instances where COVID-19 patients are being stigmatized because other people who they'll be mingling with might feel anxious for them to transmit this virus. And so that could also add on to their depression and high level of stress at the same time. post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic growth. That is why there is a need for building support, which is in connection with pressing need for support. This time, they would be needing more of the support. And one thing that could be seen is the resiliency, no matter how difficult they have dealt with. In surviving for the COVID-19, they were able to make it. And of course, they have utilized different coping strategies. These coping strategies in different forms allowed these patients to be able to survive the very pressing trial that they have encountered as they were infected by the virus. So, for the framework of this research, the theoretical framework will be focusing on the quality of life as well as the coping strategies. For the quality of life, it doesn't have to be only a single theory because we have to do an integration or a combination of the different aspects of the self of the individual to come up with the quality of life. So we included here the quality of life by Maslow's, the hierarchy of needs, and also the health-related quality of life or the HRQOL. So for the coping strategies, we have here existential and humanistic theory by Viktor Frankl. With regards to the existential and humanistic theory by Frankl, Frankl is a known psychiatrist and neurologist and became a Jewish prisoner. So he has an experience of a traumatic event at the same time. Therefore, his studies would be focusing on the experiences of somehow which could be considered as a survivor. And for the positive psychology by Martin Seligman, this is the scientific study of the good life or the positive aspects of the human experience that make life worth living. The discipline of positive psychology focuses on both individual as well as the societal well-being. So for our conceptual framework, you could see here that we utilize a sequential explanatory design. So in the sequential explanatory design, the data are collected over the period of time into consecutive phases. Later on, I will be discussing what would be the different or the two phases that we will be focusing on as we collect on and we gather the data. Thus, the researchers first collects and analyzes the quantitative data. The qualitative data are collected in the second phase of the study and are related to the outcomes from the first quantitative phase. This idea represents that the study will employ both phases of the quantitative and the qualitative in a sequence state, collects data in order to get substantial information, interpret, and analyze it to arrive at the significant conclusion and recommendations. Also, in the sequential explanatory design, the data are collected over the period of time into consecutive phases. As you could see, we have here triangulation and integration method because like what I have mentioned earlier, it will be divided into two phases. Phase 1 would focus first on the quantitative part. In the quantitative part, we'll be utilizing here survey. Later, I will expand more on this. And after having the survey, we'll be having the data analysis. And to strengthen what we have taken from the quantitative data and the quantitative gathering of the information, we will also be utilizing an interview plan because an interview plan could further show us and could further reveal what are the actual experiences of the COVID-19 survivors. That is why the phase 2 of the study will be directed into a qualitative approach, wherein interviews will be conducted and data analysis will be done at the same time. And after we have taken this quantitative and qualitative data that we need, we'll proceed on with combining the two to see what would be the effects or what could be the answers to the possible questions that we are trying to deal with. So for research problem, here are some of the things that we would like to explore as we dive into our research. The study would be aiming to explore the lived experiences of Filipino COVID-19 survivors. Specifically, it seeks to answer the following questions. First would be, what is the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of the following? So here we have the age, we have the gender, the educational attainment, the marital status, the socioeconomic status, as well as the religion or belief. In the first item, which is the age, as we all know, there are different age groups which could have been infected by the COVID-19. And these different age groups could be reacting or responding differently as they are being infected by the virus. Like, for example, when a child is infected by COVID, a child could have a different thinking when somebody of the older age group would be suffering from COVID, because they have different priorities, they have different considerations, they could have different knowledge on what is COVID, how could it greatly affect me, then that could be one factor wherein we could see differences on how they behave, on how they would be thinking. With regards to gender, male and females, we would like to see also more how these males and females react similarly or differently as to how they deal with the virus and what were the coping mechanisms that they have utilized. Others could have undergone a great sort of depression, others could have undergone a great deal of anxiety, but others maybe just thought that this is just a natural problem and they will be surviving it, or others might be thinking, this is a miracle that I have survived because it is something that I have to check on with myself because I do believe that there could be something about me which would make me recover, or we could also think about the comorbidity status of these people. In connection with the age of these individuals, as we all know, people who are high at risk could be those in the older age group, the elderly, as well as those who are suffering from existing diseases or disorders. If you have also a low immune system, then that could be a factor for being infected once you have an exposure with the virus or someone who had been infected by the virus. And so that should be included for part of the demographic profile. Another would be the educational attainment. So part of this, we consider the educational attainment because different levels of the understanding as well as the perception of these people could also be depending on what they know about the COVID-19 itself. For people who are fully much aware of the signs and the symptoms, maybe if they experience it, they might be thinking, oh, I might be having COVID, or I have to undergo this test in order to verify. But what about the others who might be saying, oh, this is just a simple cough. This is just a simple headache. Or this is just a simple flu that later on I will recover. Another would be the marital status. We could be seeing here for married people, for single people who are more having some issues dealing with how they would cope with the disorder. Basically, if you are a parent and you have children, your main concern would be your children. You might be saying, it's not just about me. I don't want to get sick because who's going to take care of my children? Or you might be saying how these children would survive if I am sick. Who's going to take good care of them for the needs that they would be having? Or what about a person who is a breadwinner of the family? That's also one thing. You don't want to be infected. You don't want to be sick because you are concerned about your family members at the same time. Another a great consideration is the socioeconomic status. So whether we agree or not, one consideration would be the socioeconomic status because as we all know, what about those people who could not afford of the treatments when they are being confined in the hospital or in a case wherein some hospitals would be looking for a down payment, a monetary payment before you will be admitted in the hospital. So this is another consideration. What if the people or people who were infected could not afford to have it? Then what's going to happen to them? So that could be a factor. And in some cases also, socioeconomic status, even if you have money, what if some of the hospitals are not able to carry out the services because it's already filled with the patients? So that could be another consideration when it comes to the factors which we'd be dealing along when we talk about the COVID. Another would be religion and belief. So this is one important thing as part of the demographic profile of the respondents because as we all know, religion as well as the belief of each individual varies. And as it varies, the practices of people might help them cope up with the challenges that they are facing. You might be hearing a lot of these people saying, I have survived because I keep on praying, I keep on asking God, I keep on asking our Creator to heal me, to cure me, and doing different forms of prayers or doing different religious practices because these are all factors that could strengthen the faith of the individual as well as this is one thing that could give hope to the individual who is faced with some issues or some difficult situations in life. So apart from this, we would also like to find out what effective components are revealed through the narratives of the Filipino COVID-19 survivors. That is why going back to the methodologies that we are going to use here, we believe that quantitative could be supportive with the qualitative approach because through the interviews that we'll be doing with them, through the interviews that we'll be conducting with them, of course, during this time, we have to utilize the online interview. The narratives of those people could really add on to the strength of the study because as they share their stories, we'll be able to take a look and observe how do they say it. Were they still emotional upon saying this? What about the expression of their eyes? How they deliver, this is how I've suffered, this is what I have experienced when I was dealing with COVID. Or you might be seeing others could stop for a while as they share their stories, reflecting and recalling what they have encountered in the past. So that could also be one good indicator and one good form of assessing how did they really undergo when they have suffered from the COVID-19. Of course, apart from these narratives, we could also get an assessment as we hear their voices. Through the voice, was it very loud? Was it very soft? Or does it appear like they are trembling upon discussing this or upon sharing their stories? So that's one thing that we consider also. So another question that we would like to know here, or we would like to explore, what superordinate themes emerge from the respondents' lived experiences? So what could be the themes that would come out as we discuss or as we ask the different survivors about how do they feel? Would they be saying that the main theme or one thing that I could realize here would be my coping strategy? One thing here that could emerge is I survived because of my inspiration. I am inspired to fight. I am inspired to have a battle, a tough battle, because I want to live for the people I care about. So that's also one consideration. From here, we could derive different aspects or different concepts mostly on the perspectives of the people as they deal with the COVID-19. Another, what is the psychological dynamics of the survivors' lived experiences? So for their psychological dynamics, we could expand it more on how they went on trying to cope up with the mechanisms that they have faced in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So for the methodology, our research design, we have mentioned, or I have mentioned earlier, that it will be a mixed method of quantitative and qualitative, which is sequential explanatory design. And our target population would be the Filipino COVID-19 survivors. The sampling technique would be the pure random sampling. As we all know, the random sampling is a part of the sampling technique in which each sample has an equal probability of being chosen. A sample chosen randomly is meant to be unbiased representation of the population. If for some reasons the sample does not represent the population, the variation could be having a sampling error, so we have to be very critical on this. And the descriptions of the respondents will be Filipino COVID-19 survivors coming from different cities of Metro Manila. So for instrumentation, to support our framework, we will also focus on the quality of life and the coping strategies. And we will be utilizing questionnaires, 2 sets of questionnaires. The first one is WHO QOL SRPB. I'll be showing an example of this later on. And the other one, to discuss for the part of the ways of the coping, we have also a questionnaire. For the difference of this, the WHO QOL SRBP field test instrument consists of 32 questions covering quality of life aspects related to spirituality, religiousness, personal beliefs. So that's why it's called SRPB. This instrument has been developed from an extensive pilot test of 105 questions in 18 centers around the world available from WHO in Geneva. So just to give a view of what this test is all about, this is the manual with the scoring. Some might be also interested in making a study out of this. There are different instructions here. How are we going to calculate and compute for the data that we could gather as we give this to our respondents? So as you could see here, here are some of the questions, and they would just click or they will just select on from the different choices, not at all a little, moderate amount, very much, an extreme amount. Here are some of the sample questions that they have. How much are you afraid of not being able to control your death, which is somehow related to the concerns of these people infected with COVID? How concerned are you about the way in which you will die? So how much do you fear being in pain before you die? How scared are you of dying? And going back here, I'll be showing the different domains that could be covered in this type of questionnaire. First would be the physical domain. In the physical domain, it covers about the pain and discomfort, the energy and fatigue, it's sleep and rest. It has something to do with what the body feels or what could the body feel. Like for example, the symptoms. We have mentioned about the symptoms. It is related to a respiratory symptom like difficulty of breathing, having cough, or you feel that it is congested on whenever you're breathing in, or you could also feel pain, and headache is one of the symptoms, as we all know. Discomfort could be in connection with the feelings or the pains that you are experiencing, then more likely we could say that you're having discomfort. Also, part of the symptom would be you're having muscle pains, you're having some troubles with your normal movements because you feel fatigued, you feel tired, you feel that you're lacking energy. At the same time, because of this, it could also involve a difficulty or a different pattern with your sleep. Next, the domain 2 is about the psychological. Psychological would involve some positive feelings, which is connected with thinking, learning, memory, and concentration, as well as the self-esteem, body image, and appearance. The negative feelings that could be felt by the person. The domain 3 is the level of independence, mobility, activities of daily living, dependence on medication or treatments, as well as the work capacity. So for mobility, of course, we all know that there could be restrictions, especially if you are infected. Of course, you'd have to be isolated. Most likely, if you are in a severe form of experiencing the symptoms, then greater possibility of having a very much restrictive activities of daily living, especially if you reach the stage of being intubated. Of course, you'll be totally dependent on the machines that are connected to you, especially for breathing. The domain 4 is about the social relationships, the personal relationships, the social support, as well as the sexual activity. This will also reveal some of the things related to social relationships. And since we are having the social distancing, we are encouraged to do physical distancing, not only with our loved ones, but for the people whom we are dealing with. Of course, these are great factors that we have to explore with. The domain 5 refers to the environment, which would involve the different factors like physical safety and security, your home environment, financial resources. One of the main concerns of the people could be the financial resources. It's a good thing that the government gives subsidy or gives aid to people. However, because there are too many people infected or too many people who might be needing these resources, there are instances that it could not be enough. And if it's not enough, then that's another problem in connection to those who lack the resources. Also, part of the environment are the health and social care, accessibility and quality, the opportunities for acquiring new information and skills, participation in opportunities for recreation and leisure activities, the physical environment, and the transport. The domain 6, which would include the spirituality, religion, and personal beliefs. That is why part of the research problem is we would like to know about the demographic profile of the respondent, and we included here the religion and the personal beliefs as reflected in the questionnaire that we're going to use. So the other instrument is known as the Ways of Coping questionnaire, the revised version. It's a 66-item questionnaire containing a wide range of thoughts and acts that people use to deal with the internal and or external demands of specific stressful encounters. Usually, the encounter is described by the subject in an interview or in a brief written description saying who was involved, where it took place, and what happened. So, to support the qualitative approach, apart from the questionnaire that we're going to use as the ways of coping, then an interview could also be conducted here. So let me show you how the ways of coping questionnaire look like. So it's going to be a combination of these two. And from there, we could derive some information which would be very much helpful in coming up with the result of the study. Okay. So this is the example of the ways of coping, the revised questionnaire. We could see here the different items. Here are sample questions. So read each item below and indicate by using the following rating scale to what extent you use it in a situation you have just described. So the rating scale would include 0 for not used, 1 for used somewhat, 2 for used quite a bit, and 3 for used a great deal. So here are some of the questions. So take a look at item number 5, bargained or compromised to get something positive out of the situation. So here are some of the examples. Hoped a miracle would happen. So these are things that could be revolving around the study that we are conducting. To continue, so like what I have mentioned, after getting the data that we derive from this questionnaire, then we're going to connect and combine it. And it will be further strengthened through a conduct of an online interview. So for the methodology, we'll be first identifying the total number of COVID-19 survivors in Metro Manila. Later, I will show you what will be the timeline for the research. And also, after we determine how many respondents we'll be getting, we'll be entering the phase 1 of the research, which is the quantitative. Questionnaires will be given through Google Form. It will be sent through the emails of the respondents. And then afterwards, the phase 2 would be involving the qualitative approach through a virtual interview. And then the treatment of the data, including the mode and its frequency. So for the research timeline, so it started July 31 to August 6 for the preparation of the research proposal. We have presented the research proposal to the Institute of Research in our university, which would be needing the proposal, and we were able to successfully carry it out. Now, some of the members are doing some of the revisions and improvements initially, and we are now at the phase of preparation of the data gathering tools. So this will be distributed to the identified COVID-19 patients who have survived. We are in the process of doing that at this point. And then we'll be doing submission of research application to Ethics Committee by October, a continuation of the data collection November to December, data analysis, research audit and statistician, it could be extending to January to February 2021, and then report writing for final revision, March 21, and we expect to complete it by April, and the presentation of everything, because we are also eyeing for publication of this, would be for the presentation would be on May. So hopefully, if we could finish it ahead of time, ahead of the timeline, we'll try our best. So we also prepared a budget for this. And from the presentation, we always believe as long as the sun rises, there is always hope. No matter how difficult we are facing right now as educators, it is not only our responsibility to teach our students and to aid them with the lessons academically, but it's also part of our life to deal on with the different things that we are facing nowadays. And with that, I like to thank you very much. I am Assistant Professor Joanna Carla Sibien, Director of the Office of International Affairs, faculty member from the Department of Psychology, you may contact me here in jkcdn@pup.edu.ph, and here's my WhatsApp number. Also, a QR code is directed for an email. Thank you very much. I hope this could be a good way and an encouraging way for other researchers who are very much interested in the study about COVID. Terima kasih. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jonna Carla, for the presentation. And now we will proceed to our next speaker. For our next speaker, he is the head of SNEB Lab, or Social and Environmental Behavior Lab in Universitas Lambung Mangkurat. His current affiliation is Psychology Study Program, Medical Faculty, since 2019 as lecturer. He is a junior researcher in Laboratory of Political Psychology of Universitas Lambung Mangkurat. His research interests are social and political psychology, especially on collective action on social, environmental, political issue, in political ideology, political psychology, radicalization, shared reality, and consensus mobilization. Without further ado, please let me call on Dr. M. Abdan Shadiki, SPSI, MSI, for his presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga. I'm Muhammad Abdan Shadiki. You can call me Diki, from Universitas Lambung Mangkurat, Indonesia. On this occasion, I represent as head of SNEP Lab, Social and Environmental Behavioral Laboratory, and as a member of expert team to accelerate the handling of COVID-19 in my institution. I would like to say thank you to the Educational and Cultural Attaché, Embassy of Republic Indonesia in Manila, Philippines, that have invited me to be one of the speakers here. And today I will present about my research that conducted in last few weeks. In the title is explaining psychological factors of compliant behavior to the health protocol in the new normal. For your information, I only used the data from South Kalimantan population, and currently our research team still trying to expand research sample to the national population. So, before I deliver my research result, let's take a look at the condition of the COVID-19 pandemic in South Kalimantan. South Kalimantan has a population of 4.3 million people. South Kalimantan is on the largest island in Indonesia, but South Kalimantan province, the smallest province in Kalimantan Island. Currently, South Kalimantan become the province with the largest number of COVID-19 cases among 4 other provinces in Kalimantan Island. And unfortunately, we have some bad records here, such as the highest addition of COVID-19 case hit South Kalimantan in 11 June 2020. And another case, South Kalimantan become province with the largest case mortality rate in Indonesia on 25th June 2020. So here the latest data confirm COVID-19 cases in August 13, 2020. There are more than 6,800 confirmed cases and other data that you can see on your own. In addition, in the latest data, South Kalimantan is in the second position as a province with the largest number of deaths per 1 million in Indonesia after Jakarta. This means that the problem of the pandemic in South Kalimantan is important to me explain. My explanation later will use perspective of in psychology. Yeah. So this is methodology. I, along with a research team from SNAP Lab, conducted an online survey from 17 July to 8 August 2019. And we managed to gather 642 participants using non-probability sampling technique, combination convenience, voluntary and snowball sampling. Data were analyzed using descriptive and inferential statistics through correlation analysis. The data we analyze have two advantages. Yeah, the study provides current data, situation and condition, and our study easy to conduct the question according to our needs. But however, the online survey also have limitation, such as have more bias than interview survey, like a face-to-face method, and the result doesn't represent condition of all Indonesian people, just only in Kalimantan population. So this is a demographic background of our respondent. We can see that a study consisted of 60.9 of female, and most of participants are worker and student. And also you can see the data dominated by sample from urban area and 77%. Educational background is dominated by senior secondary level and bachelor degree. And you can see a mean of age is 28 years old, and the most of data were from less than 20 years old. So this is the first result for our study. We found the among the 14 compliance behavior that we measure, there are 3 compliant behavior with the largest mean value. Firstly is mask, wearing mask, and then doing healthy lifestyle and keep distance with sick people. So this explains that most participants have a higher mask wearing behavior than other type of behavior. And this result, we found 3 compliant behavior with lowest mean value, which is, you can see, the first one is 30 minutes of routine physical activity, cleaning the house, and maintain immunity with vitamin and supplement. So those explain that South Kalimantan people rarely maintain their physical condition to increase immunity against the virus. From this result, we want to explain the difference of compliant behavior in the term of 8 categories. This explains that generally compliant behavior is at level 4, yeah, above 4, from 1 until 5 level, which is quite high compliant behavior. But when we take a look for different category, young people have lower compliant behavior than older people. Yeah, and in the mean where must score, we found there is not significant difference between young and old people. So this is manual in distancing behavior such as physical or social distance. Young people tend to have lower score than older. And likewise, on the wasting hand at least 40 seconds behavior, young people also have lower score than older people. So for additional information in our data, the participants that over 50 years old are less than 30 respondents. So we next on the worries in pandemics. We also measure worries during pandemic. Interesting, we found that the people of South Kalimantan are more concerned or worried about their family health than their own health, personal health. There is more than 57% of respondents are very worried about their family health. This may explain that collective society emphasizes group orientation over the need and desire of each individual. Comprehension of COVID-19 information. We then asked respondents comprehension of COVID-19 information. We found that the comprehension of health protocol was high, but comprehension on the new normal policy tend to be lower. This is why. This is tendency people still confused about how to do activities in the new normal period following the policy from the local government. And in Indonesia, there is a mistake in understanding the meaning of the term new normal itself. The term new normal can be confused with understanding that we can return to our past behavior and activities without implementing health protocols or going to normal life like before pandemic. So the Indonesian government finally changed the term new normal to adaptation of new habits. Yeah. We also measure about hoax and conspiracy of COVID-19. We found the positive finding on the problem of false information. More than 50% of respondents answer disagree with the belief that COVID-19 is hoax. Yeah. It can also be seen from the relatively low mean score, like with the belief that COVID-19 is conspiracy is also relatively low lower in our sample. So, however, this finding has limitation because it cannot explain how the condition of the sample in rural areas, because majority of the sample come from urban area. Over 75% participant from urban areas. Yeah. Then we perform an inferential analysis to see correlation between demography factor and compliant behavior. As the result, we found the age and education were significantly correlate with coefficient above 0.2 at the 0.01 level significant. Although this level, this is a low level correlation, we can understand that the older people and more educated people will be compliant with health protocol. So we also analyze psychological factor and correlation with compliant behavior. As the result, we found the significant correlation between all psychological factors. That's it. So as the result, 3 interesting findings in here. Firstly, the higher a person understanding of COVID-19 or comprehension of COVID-19, they will be more compliant with health protocol. And the correlation coefficient of this relationship is 0.358. And then people who believe that COVID-19 as hoax information have less compliance behavior or negative correlation. And then people who believe that COVID-19 is conspiracy information have less compliant behavior. So this is also negative correlation. And the final finding that also deserve attention is the distrust of science lead to less compliant with health protocols. Yeah. In the last correlation test, we tested the perception factor using health belief model, yeah, consisting of first self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is referred to an individual belief for their capability to do health protocol. The sick barrier refer to individual assessment of the obstacles to behavior change. And perceived benefit refer to individual evaluation of the benefit of making effort, yeah, to prevent COVID-19. And perceived severity refer to perception of how serious COVID-19 to themselves. And the perception and the lastly, perception susceptibility refer to subjective perception of the risk of acquiring to infected COVID-19. So this is the correlation analysis. The result, all variables have a significant correlation. Perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, perceived benefit, and self-efficacy have a positive correlation with compliant behavior to health protocol, and self-efficacy has a moderate correlation level. So from this the result, it can be explained that first, perceived barrier have a negative correlation with compliant behavior? If the perceived barrier increase, compliant behavior is decreased. Yeah. The more of personal has a confidence that he or she can do health protocol or high self-efficacy, the more compliant behavior with the health protocol will be conducted. So, however, the perceived severity, susceptibility, and perceived barrier have a very low correlation. On the result and conclusion, we pick up several important conclusions. The compliant behavior has important role in the prevention program in COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, young people tend to have less compliant to health protocol than elder people. Some factor can be increased compliant behavior are comprehension of COVID-19 information, perceived benefit, and self-efficacy. And some factors that can be decreased compliant behavior: hoax, conspiracy, distrust with science, and perceived barrier. So lastly, we discuss the final explanation of the result of this research. I recommend some point to the local or central government in Indonesia. So if we see the graphic on the daily number of confirmed cases of COVID-19, Indonesia has not seen a decrease in the confirmed case of COVID-19. Many people in our province are increasingly ignorant to implementing health protocol. Behavior change have a central role in pandemic as long as the vaccine still not found. And change the behavior, we can start from belief area or mindset. We can try to strengthening information and eliminating or controlling false information like hoax, conspiracy in the community. Support each other and build solidarity in the community is going important to dealing with pandemic condition. So thank you so much for your attention. In this research, we have other agenda for this study, such as making an infographic that will be distributed with the community. And we also try to making policy brief from this research will be submitted to local governments. Finally, we will try to expand the sample population to the national level. So Indonesian who living in Indonesia during pandemic can involve on the online survey with following link bit.ly/perilaku patuh COVID-19. Again, thank you so much. I return to moderator.
Thank you so much, Bapak, for sharing your research to all of us here. And now we will proceed to our next speaker. Before we proceed, I'm sorry, I would like to remind everyone again, if you have any question, you may type it in the Q&A. And our speakers, for our speakers, you may answer it via type, or later we will, you can answer it directly as well. And for those who are asking for the attendance and also for the material, Later, after this presentation, we will share a link where you can fill up the attendance and also for the e-material and also the certificate. So no need to worry, we will share a link to you all. And now let's proceed to our next speaker. Our next speaker, she was an assistant lecturer in UGM or Universitas Gadjah Mada, and also she's active as well in participating in research and seminar experiences from 2015 to 2019. And as of now, she is a lecturer in Science and Technology Faculty, Agriculture Program Studies in Aisyah University Yogyakarta. To Miss Riri Chairia, you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, host. Can you present my presentation, maybe?
Yes. We will help you to share it.
Okay, before that, I want to explain. My name is Riri Khairia, as lecturer on the Architecture Study Program in Aisyah University Yogyakarta. Thank you for inviting us to present in this series. And I will present this mini research. This research about design simple home tool did by student college and lecturer at Architecture Aisyah University Yogyakarta. We will look phenomena which happen in pandemic COVID-19, and we focus about what architecture can do. Okay, next, thank you. Okay, this is illustration about a pandemic situation, which not only give impact in health aspect, but in economic too. This picture explain there are 3 families who their hosts are neighboring. There are 2 families who live well, but there's 1 family affected by COVID. With their father as layoff workers, so they have problem in financial and cannot fulfill their leave. While the other family have enough savings for live in pandemic COVID-19 situation. Next. Okay, this is situation when they live, when every people have concern with their health, and we have to keep social distancing in this situation, even though we can use telecommunication to interact. But there are some residents who have individual character. Even though in hard times, we have increased our care to our environment. Okay, next. Okay, with this innovation, we hope can make everybody can interact with their neighbor, but keep operate safety protocol. So with the Hado, okay. This is a background situation about the problem we choose. This is the data from the Manpower Ministry website, where in Indonesia to 31 July had about 2 million workers were dismissed because pandemic COVID-19. Not only informal occupation, but informal occupation too. This data explain that pandemic not only give impact in health public, but economic too. Okay, next. Okay, the 15th in July in Indonesia had an increase in the number of poverty until 0.56 compared to September 29. Okay, next. And this is data explain that is at urban areas have the greater poverty growth than at rural area. So the urban situation where have much workers works in company have a significant number that lay off workers. So that situation give impact in economy public. Yes, next. Okay, this data source from the Central Bureau of Statistics that the poverty in Indonesia caused by fourth aspect like pandemic COVID-19, deflation of household consumption, increased price of basic commodities, and tourism sector slump. So pandemic COVID give impact in various sectors. Okay, this is illustration, this photo about the situation in Indonesia, about sharing behavior. Okay, so we have to increase our care to society, and there were phenomena where some people shared their food or basic commodities to their environment. They put their gift on the fence, so they didn't have to meet in person with their neighbors. Okay, next. Besides that phenomena, there is public interest to sharing, but they don't have a proper space to share without have deep interaction with their neighbors. So they use their fence as sharing space. And this were public space like mosque, where is Indonesia usually use this to interact with their neighbors. And the other public space like open public space, or we can say the alun-alun in Indonesia to meet, but in COVID situation, all public space has closed. Okay, if we look urban residential, there is typical they have fence to protect their house, and their house have closed facade typical. In social knowledge, the situation we say the gated community, where individual situation happen. Next. And this is urban perspective, where every family have individual typical home. Besides the human is social being who interacts with other human beings as a communication process. However, pandemic COVID-19 make human distance to keep safety and healthy. Besides that, their society with social crisis or have individual nature, but in pandemic situation, while can impacting economy family, the charity in society is more needed and can increase feelings of cherishing each other. Okay, this is a conclusion for residential problems in pandemic situation. As research approach, there are three conditions. First, in behavioral problems in society. Second, in economic problems in society. And third is architectural problems. They public space be confined, no option for safety place to sharing, and urban settlements have individual design. This is our concern. So this is concept for the architectural research results. We made prototype that we named Tahado. This name from Hadith Abu Hurairah. Tahado, Tahabbu. In Islamic religion, we say to give each other gifts, then you will love each other. Okay, this is purpose designing and innovation of interaction space between homestay, give each other between neighbors that is easy to implement ecologically, functionally, economically, and socially, namely Tahado space. And benefit this prototype is maintaining a social tradition of giving each other between neighbors through the Tahado space interactions. Innovation in pandemic COVID-19 situation and to keep social distancing. And design concept is the main concept of this design is make increase interaction between neighbor with the space that will fix interaction between neighbors and type it well. Okay, this is a novelty about design process. This property have design simple concepts to we will implement in various of situation. And this is a design plan. This is a simple design prototype. We share this idea and everyone can make this prototype by themselves because this is a low price, simple designs and easy to make. And this is a detailed prototype, which is the Tahado have used durable material and easy to find in the store. And a two-side box, this prototype have pockets to put scripts. Scripts can replace with other words, so the neighbors will know if inside the box there's something like gift or food, or if inside the box there's nothing inside. Okay, we have variable design. First, ergonomic. This prototype installed flexibly with a height that suits the owner's human performance. Second, durable. Using durable material like acrylic or stainless or iron with painting. This prototype can work with other material but must have durable terms. Third, low maintenance. A simple design with durable material can make this prototype easy to clean. In this situation, we can clean by disinfectant spray. Okay, next. Okay, fourth, privacy friendly. The optimum size of design prototype is not too wide, so the household can keep their privacy. Fifth, secure. Optimum size and close design can keep house safety and gift is protected by close design. We can use padlock to make this box more safety. And six, presentive from insect or maybe a book. Close design with presentive design made silicone around the door make inside Tahado safe from insect. Okay, this is 7 variable about low cost. The price for makes this prototype only 200,000 until maximal 400,000, depend the material use. A reminder, user can knocking the Tahado door to remind their neighbor when have taken gift inside the Tahado, or their signs with script which can be sliding to remind the neighbor. And last, informative. This box design have shape which everyone easy to reminder if this box is used for placing something. And there are scripts which everyone can replace the script. Okay, next. And this is about design location. The prototype, everyone can locate it on the fence or in the wall, like the picture. If we locate the Tahado on the fence, we can share to everybody who cross in front of their house. But if we locate the Tahado in the wall, we can focus to share with our neighbor and we will foster a sense of mutual care. Okay, this slide about how do we to use this Tahado. So when we ask the giver, we just open the box and put the gift like foods inside the box. After that, we can sliding the sliding panel. So in the receiver side, there's the script that says there's gift for you. And the giver can make knock, 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 use the box door. And with this script, we can make informative box even though we can use telecommunication to inform the gifts. But this design consider if the situation is not proper to use telecommunication. Okay, this is a conclusion about end result of innovation. So designing innovation of interaction space among houses to give among neighbors. If it easy to adjust Tahado space ecologically, functionally, economically, and socially, that will bring benefits for all community members. And design overcoming social problem of urban community in pandemic COVID-19 situation, to applying back community habit to give Tahadu as religious and community teaching. 3, easily applicative model to apply on the community, can be met personally affordable cost. Okay, next. And further development of the study, the steps that have been done are focused on developing idea to become a proposal of concrete architecture element, formulating principles of proposed design plan, creating initial design in visualization of computer 3D model and mock-up scale 1. The next steps can be continued is developing several possibilities of the application by several materials that is easily met by the community members and considering issue related to economic cost. Okay, there's explain about the prototype. Thank you. Okay, thanks. I will give to host again.
Thank you so much, Ibu Viri, for your presentation. We really learned many things from our speakers today regarding this, the research that you made. And now we will proceed to our next session, which is the question and answer. So we have here we have a lot of questions here. So first, we have question addressed to Ibu Luki Herawati.
Yes, please.
Pertanyaan untuk Prof. Luki.
Yes.
Bagaimana tanggapan Ibu dengan penerapan adaptasi kebiasaan baru di kondisi new normal ini? Data menunjukkan banyak bermunculan klaster-klaster baru akibat new normal ini. Kiat-kiat apa yang harus dilakukan dengan kondisi ini? Terima kasih. Pertanyaan dari Ibu Dia Nafianti.
I have to answer now in Indonesia or in English.
Yes, Ibu.
Yeah.
Up to you, Ibu, maybe.
Okay.
Boleh, Ibu.
Yeah. 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 Ya, adaptasi baru karena yang bertanya from Indonesia, Mbak Dian. Thank you for your good question. Thank you. There are a lot of new cluster in the era adaptation. Yeah, a lot of new cluster, and maybe the kiat-kiatnya adalah you have to apply the protocol COVID standard strictly. Itu kiatnya. There are a lot of activity and the protocol standard, standard WA standard, social distancing, wearing mask, and don't do activities out. Maybe it is not as very necessary. Yeah. So it is the kiat-kiat yang umum. So strictly to apply the standard protocol. Itu satu-satunya. Ya. And the second is don't worry too much about the COVID, but we have to be careful about it. Nah, itu. Jadi don't worry about it too much. And we have to think positive thinking. So sehingga kita tidak bisa, artinya gini, jangan melanggar dari protokol standar, termasuk social distancing, hand washing, and so on and so on, and to face the COVID, orang-orang yang sudah terkena COVID, atau jangan go to the party gathering a lot of people. Nah, itu harus dicegah. Saya kira itu pertama. Thank you for your good question.
Thank you so much, Ibu Luki. And I guess the question from Ibu Tri Mulyaningsih already answered as well.
Yes.
And now another question, Ibu, from addressed to you, Ibu, from Miss Solha El Rifda.
Yes.
Based on your research, psychiatric health conditions are the dominant factors for the symptoms of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
What efforts have been made by the hospital or the patient and his family to improve their psychiatric health?
Yeah, the hospital and the community.
Made by the hospital or the patient and his family.
Patient and family.
Yes.
Okay. Provider, especially to the provider, health provider in the hospital. Provider in the hospital is very busy to manage the COVID cases. Yeah. So this is the part of the health provider from the health center and the volunteer. It is the part of them, because the health provider of the hospital is very busy. It's very busy to manage the COVID cases. So we have to educate the community, patient, or the family of the patient. We have to educate them and about how to control the COVID symptom, especially about psychiatry condition. And I hope the nurse group, Persatuan Perawat, is very important to give education to community about how to cope with the psychiatry condition, how to cope to the patient, also to the family. And also the volunteer, I mean that the volunteer have to give information to the family or the patient recovered about the their not always the negative information about the COVID, but also gave an information about there are a lot of chance to recover. I think it is my answer.
Thank you so much, Ibu. And here is the follow-up question from Miss Janita Donsu.
I see.
What effort can we do to prevent? Because as we all know, this pandemic really affect the psychiatry in psychiatry area, Ibu. Or so how to prevent this? To prevent more severe psychiatric disorder.
Okay, thank you for Mrs. Janita. Is a very encouraged question. Thank you. How to prevent the psychiatry condition in the family? Please, family have to think positive thinking. Positive thinking. Don't worry too much. Don't worry too much. Positive thinking about the psychiatry condition. Yeah. And I mean that we have to know about the negative COVID-19, but also we have to know about the chance to be recovered if someone get the COVID-19. So positive thinking is better to think for all to prevent from the psychiatry condition. It's my answer.
Thank you so much, Ibu. So you have to be positive thinking, because as we all know, in this during this pandemic, anxiety is really affecting everyone. They they will watch from the news or even social media, and everyone will think something. Oh, this one is this one, but we have to know, as you said, Ibu, we have to know about this COVID, so we have the awareness about this virus as well.
Yeah.
And now another question, Ibu, from Dr. Atik Badia.
I see. Please.
From Dr. Atik Badia, what is confounding variable research COVID-19 and factor determinant research COVID-19? How have been application result research COVID-19 at patient in community and hospital?
Yeah, thank you for good question, Dr. Ati, about the confounding variable. Yeah, in my research, we know that not all the factors I measured. I just take each factors. Yeah, just take each factor. So I realized that a lot of factor as a confounding factor. Suppose the social distancing. I don't research about it. And an appropriate wearing mask. We just asked about, are you wearing mask? The respondent just choose, yes, I am wearing mask. But we don't know wearing mask in an appropriate or not appropriate, inappropriate. This is the confounding too. And social distancing, I don't ask about it. And how the application of the this research to community, maybe to community, or to pardon the second question from the Mrs. Ati, confounding and application in the community. Okay. Application in the community. This is the same answer. Application in the community. Because the first factors to control the COVID-19 symptoms is the psychiatry condition. So application to the community is be positive thinking, and do the protocols, the health standard. And for instance, make or wearing the mask appropriate, on just not answer the yes, I am wearing mask, but inappropriate wearing mask. And don't worry too much. Yeah, don't worry too much. Positive thinking, don't worry too much. Do activity as usual. I think this is my answer.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for your answer. Another question is addressed to Prof. Jonna Carla. The question is from Idewa Gede Hariwisana. How to clustering socioeconomic status in Filipino and its relation to this pandemic?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Anna.
For clustering of the socioeconomic status, of course, there are activities which is conducted by the government in order to address the needs of those Filipinos who belong to the lower class. Like, for example, there are local government units which are assigned for each of the locations here in the Philippines who regularly or who gives for the poor people or for the people, particularly pertaining about the food that they are eating. At the same time, some monetary amounts which could be provided. There are some documents which would be presented. And one good thing here, in spite of the pandemic, is that for those who have a good heart and for those who are very willing to share the resources, we could see that people are very much willing to donate and take part in doing their social responsibility in the community or in the country. And so even though we really struggle a lot, you could see there are many people who donate not just money, but others donate face masks, face shield, the equipments or the things that are used when they are going out. At the same time, groceries or food which are given to these people. So that's part of the socioeconomic status. Of course, there are divisions because not are well off and some belong to the lower class. However, still, the COVID affects every individual, not just in the high status or not just in the low class. And so the efforts of all are really needed and very essential for these trying times. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much, Miss Carla. And now another question addressed to you from Mr. Agus Karmayana Rubaya. Do you and your researcher team expect surprising findings from your study? Second, this is maybe a little bit out of topic. Is there any opinion among Filipino people that the COVID is just a conspiracy? What do you think about that from psychological point of view?
Okay, so for the first question, for the assumptions, the team or the research team have these basic assumptions. First of all, we want to strengthen the things about resiliency. Another thing is that we want to find out the coping mechanisms done by people. So if we could take a look at what could happen to these effects, one thing is about the resiliency. We think that this study will further strengthen the beliefs that Filipinos are really resilient individuals, that whatever difficulties they are facing, they're able to adjust and to cope up in spite of the challenging times. And this is one of the things, although not very much surprising, but I think it would strengthen and it would improve the belief of that about this certain nationality. And another thing about the coping mechanisms, we want to see variations of how do people cope. We might be surprised that something like isolation could be a good thing for a person. And that could be surprising because normally people don't want to be isolated. But in other cases, who knows, we might be finding out that one of the outcomes or one of the result would be people enjoyed the way of being isolated when they have been suffering from COVID-19 pandemic. And then for the second question about is there any opinion among Filipino people that COVID-19 is just a conspiracy? Well, I think it's not only in the Philippines that that kind of thinking or that kind of opinion had been very much known. And really, some people would be thinking that it is a conspiracy, an experiment which had been conducted, and this had been the output. And however, for the psychological impact of that, what I think is that trusting people could be one of the most challenging things that we could face nowadays. Why? Because in the trust that we could gain from these different individuals, there could be some issues because surprisingly, what had happened to our country, what had happened to the countries all over the world is very, very much, is very much surprising because of the death rates and the number of the cases that is continuously spreading. And like in the case of the Philippines, in comparison with other countries have a more improved case of COVID that they could actually do their normal activities. But in the case of the Philippines, I think the numbers are increasing and it's getting worse. So it's really a challenging time for the Filipinos. Another, what I think about the psychological impact is that there could be division among the different status of people. Why? There is an impact on the psychological aspect and the behavioral aspect of the Filipinos because, like for example, in cases I have mentioned earlier, when you're going to the hospital and you want to be admitted, some hospitals would be asking you, can you pay this amount of money for that patient to be admitted? What if you don't have? Then how would you feel about yourself? The psychological impact would make you feel a little down. You might be questioning yourself, am I not really capable? Am I not really doing my best? Am I not really giving my best? How come I could not afford such kind of payment? And some things would be racing in the mind of the people. Another, psychological impact could include the stigma because as we all know, if we hear that this certain place has a COVID case, an increase in COVID case, the tendency is to move away from that location. Or if you know somebody who has a COVID, even though that person is very close to you, you might be saying, oh, I have to move a little bit away from this person for a certain time because I don't have to be infected. I don't want to be infected. And another stigma that we could see here, since COVID started in China, one thinking about people, whenever they see Chinese people or whenever they see people who resembles like a Chinese, what do they usually do? They tend to isolate those people and they move away from people. So I think those are the psychological impacts about the COVID.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jonah Carla. Another question addressed to you from Ms. Janita Donso. How to maintain the quality of life of patients with COVID-19 in a very limited economic condition, considering that so many people have dropped out of work and have to be at home without income?
Yes.
Okay. So in spite of these trying times, it's really difficult. We all know that the economic status of many countries have really went down and it's really striving to cope up with the demands. Many companies have shut down, many companies have temporarily closed, and that really affects the socioeconomic status of the country. However, even though there are a lot of limitations that we could do, we should always try to maintain a good quality of life, even with simple things. Even we don't belong to the higher status, even we don't have so much resources, at least we could try to maximize what we have. Like for example, first is we could still try to maintain healthy relationships. What about healthy relationships? We start with who you spend your time with at home. That could be your immediate family members. Of course, having a harmonious relationship inside the house could help these individuals at least feel uplifted and enlightened and less stress and less worry because you are able to deal with together with your family members and your loved ones with this kind of situations. Another, we have to take good care of yourself. How do we take good care of ourselves? Of course, it would be dependent on the individual's perception. Taking good care of yourself could include have some relaxations. How do you relax? At least try to calm down yourself. This could be relative to different individuals because as we all know, there are different coping strategies for people. But in the minimum, even though the world is becoming very difficult, at the same time, even though there are many people, there are many distractions, there are many news, you try to calm down. Like for example, have a certain amount of time that you will not be exposing yourself in any news or in any social media browsing because that adds to your stressor. Another, before you sleep at night, you try to reflect, you try to meditate. I know everybody does sleep or do sleep. And so before you sleep at night, you try to reflect on how could I strengthen myself, not just the physical self, but also your mental state, because your mental state is very important here to gain the quality of life that you would like. Another, as much as possible, the basic needs, which I hope everybody could have, is very essential in considering how an individual could have the quality of life. And also with that, we also have to keep moving, exercising a bit, don't engage the self into a sedentary lifestyle, because if you will push through with sedentary lifestyle, you might be able to have another set of disorder, not COVID related, but it will also affect the quality of life. So I think even though we don't belong to a very high class, although we have limited resources, these are the things that we could do to improve our quality of life.
Thank you so much, Miss Jonah. And another question addressed to you po, ma'am, from Dr. Atik Badia. How
Yes.
have been application effective component the narrative of the Filipino COVID-19 survivor at patient in pandemic, COVID, and era new normal? How to implement the use of instrument quality of life and coping mechanism at patient COVID-19?
Okay. So for clarification, when we speak of the affective component, it involves the feelings and emotions of an individual about a certain situation or about a given situation. And this situation that we're dealing with right now is the COVID-19 pandemic. So first, it is important to know how does a person feel about the situation, because that will be the baseline of what are you going to do next with that person. If the person thinks too much about the COVID and you could really manifest or you could really see that the person is greatly affected, the person could no longer do the normal activities of daily life because he or she is greatly troubled, then that could be one of your bases as to how you're going to deal on with that kind of patient or that particular person. From that, you could derive how are we going to relate with the individual. And another, in the implementation of the instrument, the quality of life and coping mechanism for COVID-19, like what I have mentioned earlier, it's really essential that you begin with the quantitative approach. The quantitative approach with the sets of questionnaires, the prepared questions, wherein the participants will be answering based on given sets of questions and choices. You could derive an information. However, to further verify what they feel and how they really know, how they think, how they actually encountered in a certain situation, that calls for a rechecking or a verification through the qualitative approach. That's why, like what I have emphasized in the discussion earlier, it will be a mixed method of quantitative and a qualitative approach.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jonah. And now another question. The question is from Mr. Agus Karmayana Rubaya. This question is addressed to Bapak Muhammad Abdan Sadiki. Regarding to people confusion about new normal term, what is the advice for local or central government for overcoming this? I myself think that maybe some people think that it is now normal.
Okay, Mr. Agus. Yes, this is our problem. Understand the new normal term. Yeah. The first time I heard about new normal term, I think it's back to normal life. I think many people in Indonesia misleading about the real definition new normal. So the solution. I think the solution is we can increase the socialization of information with billboard, poster, social media, or we can ask help from local figures, yeah, for the socialization. For example, ask the ulama or religious leader in educate the community. So local government, I think, must carry out large-scale socialization or massive socialization, not only on social media. Yeah, local government should be re-educate the public about the policy implemented in the new normal. The socialization, I think, must reach people in the remote area. So we can count on the announcement at the mosque or worship place before pray salat, I think. Because in Indonesia is the biggest Muslim countries in Asia. And Indonesia and world, yeah, in the world, yeah. So we can ask help from ulama and using mosque to announcement about new normal policy. So I think this is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bapak. Another question, Bapak, from Dr. Badia, addressed to you. How application health beliefs, models with health protocols conspiracy of COVID, the compliance behavior during pandemic COVID and era in new normal?
Oh, okay. Dr. Atik, thank you for the question. So this is related with Mr. Agus' question. So I think the key solution is socialization and education program. Yeah. So the key point is that the information narrative must contain content according to health belief model variable. For example, to self-perceived susceptibility, we can inform the public with information containing about whether we are vulnerable to infected COVID-19 or what we get or benefit when implementing health protocol. This is a perceived benefit, right? To inform about the limitation to carry out health protocol. So the conspiracy problem, we should counter narration. Yeah, we should counter narration with scientific background, I think. So if the information from scientific background combined with health belief model, I think it will be powerful to again conspiracy about COVID-19.
Thank you so much.
My answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bapak.
Welcome.
Question addressed to Miss Jonah from Miss Solha El Rifda. Is there any similar research before? What were the results? And what efforts the Philippine government has made to increase quality of life for COVID-19 survivor?
Okay, so far here in the Philippines, we haven't found a research similar to this. However, upon checking on some researches conducted by other countries, we have found out some, and the results are the following. It was found out that for patients who survive the COVID-19 experience the following things. They have experienced anxiety, depression, and PTSD, or the post-traumatic stress disorder for the survivors after exposed or after weeks and months of being discharged from the hospital. So as we could see, there could be different responses or respondents that the people could be doing, especially when they are faced with the situation. Others could take it really negatively, and which could have affected their daily life. And even though they have survived, the feeling that they haven't really liberated themselves from the pains or the troubles that the COVID-19 had caused them could still be a main issue for individuals. But for others, as they have recovered, their life is back to normal. So those are the things that we have seen on researches conducted in other countries. So when it comes to government efforts, I think this one will help the government to see the need to address the mental health conditions of the survivors, especially if the behavior of these individuals interfere with the activities of daily living. So those are the things that have been seen from other researches related to this.
Thank you so much, Miss Jonah. And another follow-up question from Miss Irma Muslimin. From Polytechnic Kesehatan Kemenkes Mamuju, as we know, efforts to prevent COVID-19, especially in Indonesia, are through public awareness of implementing health protocols such as wearing masks, physical distancing, washing hands, and so on. So how does this apply in the Philippines?
Okay, so same thing. We have the different health protocols taking place here in the Philippines. So same thing in your country, in Indonesia, we are also advised to wear masks, especially when we go out. We are asked to do social distancing. And of course, similar things like washing hands, using alcohols or sanitizers. At the same time, one thing that has been added to us is we are asked to wear face shields also as we go out to prevent the spread of the infection. And at the same time, as you have heard maybe from news, the country, particularly the National Capital Region and some places and some locations here in the Philippines have been converted again to modified enhanced community quarantine. So there are strict restrictions as to the curfew, as to the people who could only go out. We also have quarantine pass for those who will be going out to buy something. And there is a shortened time for the opening of some stores and shops here in the Philippines as a means of trying to control the spread of the virus. So those are the protocols that we observe here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jonna. And now we have another question addressed to Prof. Lucky.
Yes.
What do you think about the opportunity for research in Indonesia on COVID, seeing that the case situation has not decreased?
Yeah. Thank you. It's a good question. Opportunity to do research in the COVID-19 era. We know that now there are a lot of research use the questionnaire. I mean the Google form. Yeah. Everything we can ask on the Google form. But the limited thing, if we use the Google form, is we can see, we can know about the truly or honesty, how they suppose the wearing a mask. Is she or he wearing mask inappropriate or not? So it is a limitation of the research in the COVID area. So we we don't go, or it's not allowed to do research in the field. So we just use the questionnaire and use the Google form. But it is not a limitation to do research. Yeah, to do research. And now my research and also Mrs. Jonah and Dr. Muhammad is do this research in the pandemic COVID area. So do research. Do research. Don't stop to do research. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ibu, for the answer. And now we have another question here addressed to Miss Riri from Dr. Atik Badia. How is the implementation easily application models with developing several possibility strategies to socialize during pandemic COVID and era new normal?
Okay, yes, there's some research in architecture aspects about to make safety public space in the pandemic situation, and this them have been developing until now in researchers in architecture field. In easy applicants, we can see in the restaurant, there's a side on the table to make safety eating together, and there's idea to make individual chairs at the public space that have distance with the others chairs, but the people can be socialized because we aware with the droplet who can share when the person is speaking. So the design has been developed until now, and we can use plans who can filter the droplet from who is speaking between a chair to make distance. And so the architect focused to implement the safety protocol in design. Okay, this is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Riri. Do we still have any other question? We'll give another chance to the other participants if you would like to ask some question or clarification regarding the research that's been made by our speakers. For those who would like to ask, you may directly raise a hand here, and then you can ask directly to our speakers, or you may type it in the Q&A. Okay, I guess there's no more question, and I guess everything is clear to all our participants. So again, we would like to say thank you very much to all the speakers who shared the knowledge and also the research to all of us here. And also thank you for to all participants who've been actively asking for questions. And I hope this webinar, we got some, not some, but we really have some, get some knowledge. Thank you so much for the sharing, and also thank you for having your time here attending this webinar. So before we end this webinar, we would like to hear some message from the Education and Culture Attaché, Dr. Lily Nurlaili. Do you?
Terima kasih, Mbak Manet. Thank you, Mbak Manet. And then thank you very much to all presenter or the speaker and all participants. I hope this meeting, this webinar international about research around COVID-19 is important and then valuable for you, all participants, and then especially for the speaker. And I want to make a webinar international about research, not only today, but I make it for the next week, 19 and 20, and after that is 21, 22, 23, until the last of August. Because in Indonesia, we have already, I have already handed more than 15 researchers is already making research about COVID-19. And then I just searching a researcher from Philippines because this is very important for this condition about still COVID-19. We don't know when the COVID-19 is just finished or just go. And I hope this webinar is continue with another research, and then you are still success and happy, and the important thing you are still keep your healthy. Yes. Thank you again, and then dengan mengucapkan alhamdulillah saya tutup webinar ini, dan terima kasih kepada Profesor Lucky Herawati dari Jogja. Terima kasih, thank you very much, Assistant Professor Jona Karlabin from PUP. She is Director of International Linkage, Polytechnic University of Philippines. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Muhammad Abdan, Dr. Muhammad Abdan dari Universitas Lambung Mangkurat. Dan terima kasih kepada Ibu Riri Hoiriah dari Universitas Aisyah Yogyakarta. Terima kasih. Maraming.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much to everyone. And now our webinar is ended, and have a nice day ahead.
Terima kasih.
Ya.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Matur nuwun. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Bu Dr. Lucky.
Terima kasih atas kesempatannya, Bu.
Terima kasih, Bu. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Ini pengalaman kalau
izin live ya, Bu.
cahaya dalam diam sepenuhnya aku merayakan memilikimu bersemarang dekat dan penuh semoga riuhnya bergemuruh di udara bertanya-tanya lah kau curiga dari mana asal suara dari sini dari aku
dekat dan penuh, semoga riuhnya bergemuruh di udara. Bertanya-tanyalah kau curiga, dari mana asal suara? Dari sini, dari aku, dari sini, dari aku. Petir-petir yang hebat, dan bila waktunya tiba mungkin aku lebih berani, bukan dalam diam saja sepenuhnya aku
merayakan memilikimu, bersemarak dekat dan penuh, semoga riuhnya bergemuruh di udara. Bertanya-tanya engkau curiga, dari mana asal suara? Dari sini, dari aku, dari sini, dari aku.
Merayakan memilikimu, bersemarak dekat dan penuh, semoga riuhnya bergemuruh di udara. Bertanya-tanya kau curiga, dari mana asal suara? Dari sini, dari aku, dari sini, dari aku, dari sini, dari aku.
Want to know what leveled up with the new Toyota Vios? Leveled up look! Daytime running lights, 3-tier LED headlights, glossy black front grille and bumper.
Ku bawakan kau nyala api, tiuplah mati kembali. Mari kita ganas-ganasnya menyerang tepat di ulu hatimu. Beri juga tepuk tangan yang riuh untuk dia yang memilih menjauh. Bergegas, berkemas, berlayar dari tangisanmu yang mulai membanda saat kau sedang sayang-sayangnya di bawah bulan yang bulat sempurna. Kau mintaku bersaksi, aku ingin jadi jantungmu dan berhenti semauku agar kau tahu rasanya hampir mati ditikam patah hati. Aku ingin jadi jantungmu dan berhenti semauku agar kau tahu rasanya hampir mati ditikam patah hati. Dengarlah tidak kau suara itu, dengarlah tidak kau suara itu suara retaknya nyawaku. Ku perintahkan pada langit untuk meminta matahari kembali pulang kembali ke punggung lautan. Karena ku rindukan ibu bulan memainkan lagu romantisnya di tanah ubud, dan kita yang sedang menari di atas merahnya anggun. Seperti sihir dua bibir kita anggun berayun, mendekat melekat, jantung kita tak seirama. Apakah ini namanya? Apakah ini bahasanya untuk orang-orang sepertiku? Apakah mungkin ini yang lama aku tunggu? Seperti sihir dua bibir kita, anggun berayu, mendekat melekat, jantung kita tak seirama. Apakah ini namanya? Jadi kalau jatuh cinta di Ubud, jangan pernah percaya, karena jatuh cinta selalu tak sengaja jatuh di tanah Ubud. Jangan kau percaya, ini bukan seperti yang kau kira. Jatuh cinta selalu tak sengaja jatuh di tanah. Di mana? Ubud.